Hi everybody!
If you've spent anywhere around 10 seconds with me, you'd know that I love Mara. They're really one of the only video essay channels who I actively follow and keep up with, not only because I really love their writing style and the comfortable, almost familial vibe each of their videos has, but also because their channel acts as almost a reservoir of only the most unrestrained and raw art out there. Mara probably has the more motivation to really seek out small, obscure art projects, and they have no shame when it comes to showing it all off. And it makes their channel not only a source for stimulating my super art brain, it also has this little spot for recommendations. Their most popular video as of writing this is just about a variety of weird art, more specifically mixed media stuff, and it's genuinely, to me, such a great resource for this kind of stuff. And even in their more focused videos, I still found myself subject to so much cool looking art getting funneled into my little mouth, which makes it so someone like me who doesn't really have all the time to play all these things has a chance to just see a bunch of really neat shit, and maybe if something really sticks out to me, I could perhaps give it a shot one day. And one of those things that I was exposed to through one of their videos was Tomorrow Is My Birthday, a game that snuggled itself comfortably in the back of my head for months after I'd initially watched the video, for reasons that are probably very obvious if you know me. Tomorrow's My Birthday has morphed into not just a favorite game of mine, but one of my favorite pieces of art I know of, and one that feels so intrinsically tied to my soul and my thoughts that my love for it feels so complicated and beyond my own understanding of writing to even put into words. It's because of that this whole video feels so daunting to me, but I'll hopefully get at least somewhat close to getting across my very nebulous but completely real feeling towards this game. So whatever, pussy first, dicks out, you know the drill. We don't have to do this, why don't we just leave? That is the first thing you read upon starting the game, and the question that sort of embodies the entire story, so hold on to it. You play as Petal, an angsty and deeply troubled teenager accompanied by Bios, the kind but also very troubled but much less apparent about those feelings robot, as they both agree to withdraw from their lives, with the only goal in mind simply being to fulfill the vague proposition brought up in the beginning. To just leave somewhere. It's kind of impossible to even move anywhere from this point without talking about the visuals of this game, because I feel like it's such an integral piece of it that enhances almost every other aspect of the game. This to me is the breed of mixed media that I absolutely adore the most, just real-world photographs combined with drawings. It's something I've gravitated towards for longer than I even knew what the term mixed media was. I can trace it back to when I first listened to Weatherglow by Asian Glow and Weatherday, which must have been 2.5 years ago at this point. And Tomorrow's My Birthday is the most exemplary piece of mixed media art for me. I love it. The inconsequential, low-quality photographs of the world filter through the lens of an old, grainy digital camera that gets my tail wagging every single time. Whenever the sun catches the lens and creates this gorgeous sort of refracting light lens flare, it just absolutely stuns me every time. It's like this explosion of color that sits in the corner of the screen and blurs the sky into pure white and the surrounding trees into these colorful silhouettes. Shit's like Parannoul's debut post-rock album. This is actually a super underrated album in my opinion. Some real raw shit on here. I really want to get a camera that captures the world like this at some point. Photo editing can only get me so far. I need this shit at the tip of my fingers. Maybunny update! I went to a small Leicester store, I don't even know what the name of it was, and I got a digital camera there for like $45-ish. Some of my photography with it will probably be featured throughout the video, and I'm kind of really excited about it. It's really neat. And yeah, this is really like my favorite kind of photography and my favorite way it can be photographed, so it's obviously wonderful to play a game entirely based around it. There was a reason I was so instantly drawn in by albums like Sadness, Abriction, and Epiphanies Tore Through, that really quaint and down-to-earth feeling in their covers. It's like I'm ripped straight from where I am and right into the world of whoever took the photo. A much more intimate feeling to them compared to something more carefully composed or something that feels more important, I guess. Instead, it's just some scenery that I guess looks pretty. Captures that whimsy and joy you feel when the sky just looks nice one day, and you realize maybe the world is beautiful, and your chud life really is worth living. I love how much attention is pulled to this world too. It's the space that your characters are physically existing in, and you can see them interacting with the plants or structures around them by going behind them or standing on them, and they usually get smaller as they walk more into the distance, and it's so charming. I love the screens where Petal walks along these power lines, or above this freeway, or along this little dock. It fills me with such unbridled glee. Since you're not going to be doing much but walking, it kind of forces you to take in its environments and think about it as you're playing. It's sort of like a little sightseeing game, I guess, which works really well for the game's themes. My mind specifically always tends to wander back to this one shot of these houses by the river, but really every single little background in this game is beautiful. The character designs themselves too are just so lovely. Both of them were actually hand-drawn and colored in a little sketchbook, which you can see in the trailer for the game. A trailer that I kinda love, by the way. It's just clips of the game and additional recordings of grass and some electronics piled onto each other with blend modes and little warping effects occasionally. On top of also being very similar to how I edit my own videos and adhering to my love for blending random shit onto each other, It just has this really carefree vibe to it, like whoever made it was just experimenting with each blend setting or visual effect and just compiling it all together. It's that really freeing vibe that extends also into the art style of the game. It's pretty easy to write off why I like it as just saying it's so bad it's good, but I feel like that's kind of diminishing the art of the game to just say that. It's like Higurashi, where just describing the art so plainly and dismissively would be entirely neglecting how vital it is in creating the very unique and purposeful atmosphere that Higurashi has. And also just not accurate at all. Ryukushi's not a bad artist and I will die on this hill. There's just so much to find in these designs that I genuinely really love and find meaning in. Like the coloring on them, how there's just so much of it. It makes me think of coloring in a coloring book, where you're more just filling in the spaces simply because the act of coloring them is fun and not for any kind of actual accuracy. Like making a SpongeBob be green and have brown eyes, and that sort of lackadaisical nature oozes through each of these designs. Their eye colors, their bright colorful hair, Petal's pink and green checkered belt. I love both their fashion senses too. They dress kinda grungy and alt, but it's also so colorful and it's so unique in that way. I love the chain around Bios's neck that also extends to their waist as a belt. It's so badass. They remind me a lot of Evergray's fashion senses, where it's very maximalist and weird, but also in a roundabout way become really cute and endearing. Both Evergrace and Tomorrow's My Birthday's characters feel like badass anime OCs that only exist physically in faded sketchbooks not touched since 2012, with sharpied line work and marker coloring bleeding through each page, turning it all into pure mush. Faina especially reminds me a lot of this game. Her weird net thing that wraps around her is so cool for some reason. It reminds me a lot of Bios. The pure juvenile angst of the two characters bleeds through every color and article of clothing on their bodies, and the visual style, being as unapologetic and I guess challenging as it is, almost seems like reinforcement of the whole fuck the entire world energy that the game latches its hands onto until it starts ripping its skin. It's very emo in that regard, I guess. There's actually a little blog on the itch page of this game talking about exactly that. I need contrasting colors and clashing styles and text that makes you want to look away and music that is hard to bear. I summarize all of these things with emo, and while I personally want to lick the very pixels that display this game and the notes that comprise this music, I really do see where Riley's coming from, and I think it's a super big part of the game's identity. It's like a weird, sinister new breed of emo though. It's like if emo was Ramo and trees. Also, using your itch devlogs as blogs is one of the most endearing things ever. Riley's way of speaking and writing is just so captivating for me, and I really wish there was more than 2 of these on this page. I don't even really care what they're about, honestly. It writes about eating kiwis in the same style it wrote Tomorrow's My Birthday. This shit makes me run along my walls. Even beyond the game's artistic style, there's such a big emphasis on contrast in it, how it feels so maximalist while at the same time being so insignificant. The very heavy story being told coupled with its lighthearted art style and constant emphasis on the beauty of nature and the world around you, as it takes the time to cut to a new recording of flowers or trees between every screen. I originally wanted to put this game in the intimacy video for reasons that should be obvious if you watched it, but I thought this really couldn't be adequately described given just a short segment in a larger video. It's something that effortlessly makes me feel nostalgic for a time I didn't even exist for, and sentimental over a life I've never even lived. It's a weird attachment towards something, but deep down I feel a semblance of Tomorrow's My Birthday in my very soul. A little small part of me that feels so validated from the overt edginess and eccentricity that's forced alongside only the most down-to-earth and trivial things like noticing a pretty flower. Around the time I first played Tomorrow's My Birthday, I was also getting into the band Animal Collective. Not really their artsy psych pop they're so revered for. I was mainly interested in their early experimental folk and drone era. Pre-Sung-Tongs shit too. And a few songs from Feels, but Sung-Tongs was my introduction to the band and the one I most closely associate to that Tomorrow is My Birthday vibe. That XXXTentacion vibe. I must have listened to it for the first time no less than a week after playing Tomorrow's My Birthday for the first time, and it almost felt like a companion piece to this game for me, in pure vibes and also in the actual music composed for the game, which feels pretty similar for me. It has that kind of experimental psych folk sound to it, and that focus on weird guitar tones and textures. I especially see a lot of the game's musical aesthetics in Kids on Holidays. Early and Cone specific has that same kind of childlike and nostalgic air to it. They're down to earth and subtle while also being extremely expressive and in your face, with vocal performances often being yelpy, eccentric, sometimes manipulated and distorted to blend into the hypnotizing textures of their backing instrumentals. Each of these albums are so abstract, colorful, and psychedelic, and at times they can come across a bit messy, hobbled together, or maybe even childish, but it's all still deeply rooted in such relatable feelings of nostalgia and being in touch with nature, very similarly to the aesthetic of Tomorrow's My Birthday. It's hard to not just feel that carefree whimsy in an album like Tongs. It makes me feel like I'm discovering everything in the world for the first time again. A shared feeling between these two pieces of art. Tongs is a near perfect parallel to this game for me, but a lot of other notable examples from this period of their career are also worth mentioning. When I saw the cover for their album Arc, it honestly sent chills down my spine. This is already after I'd made the connection between Tongs and Tomorrow's My Birthday for me, and seeing this cover, which could probably pass as a screenshot of an area in this game, honestly freaked me out. It's that same abstract and colorful design philosophy you see in many interactable critters throughout the game. I'd really recommend checking out this era of Anko if it sounds interesting to you. Tongs is definitely the best starting point, as it's by far the most accessible while still retaining the messiness that makes their early work so endearing. But their EP Prospect Hummer is just gorgeous in a way I think anyone can enjoy, and their really rough early work like Arc and Campfire songs both has some really beautiful drone and free folk pieces in them. Infant Dressing Table, Queen of My Pictures, and Doggy in specific are favorites of mine. While on the topic of music, to talk about the game's soundtrack as its own standalone piece, it's really great. To give it a genre label, I'd say it's psychedelic avant freak folktronica, a real genre that does exist. Avant folk is probably the best actual descriptor I could give though, that isn't just word mush. Let's Skip Tomorrow, the song that plays in chapter 1 in the trailer, is like the exact vibe of the game in audio form to me. The chopped up acoustic guitar melody that stutters, reverses, and whirs around in your head, fuzzy synth bass, and sort of muffled drum breakbeat loop. Such a collage of sounds, but they all harmonize so beautifully together. Hits down that homemade scrapbooky feel really nicely, and is the only song besides the good ending theme that has any ounce of joy in it too. The song that plays in the final chapter, July 14th, perfectly encapsulates the sensation of everything kind of just falling apart, where you don't even know where you're striving towards anymore and everything's just turned to haze. The texture and notes of the guitar are harsh and feel almost plucked at random, and it creates this eerie, uncomfortable air that looms over every interaction between Petal and BIOS. At the point this song plays, the little in-between segments are getting to the reason Petal is leaving in the first place, and it just adds so much uncertainty, as whatever Petal said in that clip lingers throughout the next screen. It's a really interesting way to structure the game, I like it a lot. Just listening to a brief line before hard cutting to the next screen, as the story reveals more of itself and the relationship between the two seemingly falls apart more, it starts making you worry about whatever's going to cut to next. If it's going to cut to something awful, which it does do in certain endings. On the complete contrary, the credits theme, Go Home, is this really fast, upbeat drum and bass song, and it captures those flowery feelings I get from this game so well. It has that same kind of scrapbook aura I talked about earlier, and it's kind of like a more upbeat rendition of A Cold Freezing Night by the Books. Both songs I think capture this kind of childlike creativity feeling in a really interesting and relatable way. I love the vocal synthy lead on Go Home too. It makes it feel like all these waves of color are washing over you and you're running through a field of dandelions, soaking in the sun and letting ladybugs crawl all over you. Works really well for a game with such a sappy and loving ending to it that I'll get into in a bit. Also, it makes so much sense for Stomach Book to have helped out with this game in some way. While on the topic of sound, there's only one actual bit of sound design in this game, but I still find it very, very stimulating for my brain. Every time you skip through text, it'll play these inquisitive and strange guitar tones that seem to follow the weight and tone of the conversation, each one playing off the previous note. It's kinda neat, converting the flow of a conversation to a free-flowing string of random notes, and how they each add on to the last one. I don't know. So now that we're done thoroughly looking at and listening to the game, it's time to actually play it. How Tomorrow's My Birthday is structured is you'll be taken to various screens where you'll just need to find where your star cursor lights up and walk over to that spot and click. Usually there's an object to interact with that'll give you more insight on BIOS and Petal, and in between each screen it'll play one line of a long message Petal sent to his parents, which details more why the events of the game are happening in the first place. The game is a bit disjointed in that way, and it's kind of hard to structure my thoughts on it coherently, and I could just go over every single line of dialogue and why I like it, but that's just such a waste of time and would take away a lot from the experience, I think. So I'll just yap, I guess. I kind of just adore the writing in this game. Listening to Petal and BIOS's poetic and philosophical blabberings to each other that sometimes don't even have anything to do with the object you interacted with just make for some of the most easy to chew on lines of dialogue for me. It's soft and wet and cold. That's something I want to be when I grow up. Whatever you say, BIOS. I love how much they bask in one another's own eccentricities and romanticization of even the smallest little rocks or plants around them. Constructing this poem while looking out at this lake, staring out at the sky or flowers, or agreeing to burn the whole world down together. That one in particular feels like such a juvenile and cliche way to show that a character is angsty, but it really doesn't feel out of place at all in this context. This is that cliché's home, bro. I really do love the dynamic between the two, even beyond their occasional sweet moment together. Both of them rely so heavily on one another for emotional support in Petal's case and in BIOS's case because nobody else really understands them. And despite the distrust that exists between them, both of them can't let go of each other. Their interactions are endearing, but they have this edge to them, because the angst and apprehension towards each other for sure, but also in the very serious things they discuss that juxtaposes the entire style of the game, at least in its very early moments. Petal's mindset is constantly shifting, and it's hard to tell exactly what he's feeling at any given moment. Often he can be dismissive or harsh, and other times he's soft and gentle. It's like Petal can't find the correct words at each given moment, as he grapples with so many different emotions, each one pining for their turn. A feeling in their dialogue that both of them share due to the harsh outside world that seems to disregard them, and it's another layer on top of everything, adding to that feeling of pure emotional outburst in both the writing and visuals. Every line feels like it carries so much emotional baggage behind it, while still feeling like it's not fully grasping the thoughts of its characters. like they just can't articulate it well enough. This feeling extends into their relationship as well. Even though they never leave the other side, both of them are too lost or uncertain to fully embrace one another, often coming across as more staying together just because they feel they need to in this weird semi-symbiotic relationship type thing. I really love this exchange where, when talking about the relationship, Petal says a flower needs its sun and Bios responds a sun needs its flower, obviously personifying Petal as the flower and Bios the sun. I have a real soft spot for this specific kind of thing, personifying yourself as a thing of nature or a simple creature or organism. It's weirdly primal to me, and I do it a lot in my own work. I like to be a critter of the forest, I guess. I also like how the allegory itself works to show how much they need each other but for very different reasons, with the specific thing they're personified as being reflective of little nuances in their character. Like, Bios being a sun falls in line with how to them it's more emotionally driven why they stay by Petal. Suns don't need flowers to survive, and nurturing flowers is just a byproduct of its existence. But Bios still needs their metaphorical flower and loves Petal for the deeper connection they feel in his presence. Petal, though, while still obviously caring about Bios, yearns more for dependency and safety from them, hence why he's the flower. Anyways, they continue on, running away from something we don't know, in pursuit of something that I don't even think they know, until chapter 4. Where the edge that just felt like a small undertone becomes completely unavoidable. I think the way this chapter builds tension in its character interactions and vibe is extremely effective, especially the final few screens, where the music just cuts out entirely, somehow adding an even harsher, eerie atmosphere than the music that was playing beforehand. It's also here where Petal's message that until now had just been building more and more how fucked up a school and home life he had, finally reveals why the question at the beginning was even posed in the first place. While on his way home, Petal was confronted by one of his bullies, and instead of sitting and taking it like he'd done every time before, he stabbed him with scissors and lit his body on fire. This is bad enough on its own, but to make things even worse, Petal's parents, because they wanted Petal to make more friends, invited everyone from his class to his birthday, which, if you didn't know, is tomorrow, and everyone will notice that somebody there didn't show up. Faced with nothing else to do, and with the advice of Bios, Petal decides to just leave. Through Petal killing his classmate and his subsequent leaving, it becomes a form of taking his life back and becoming his own person, not bound by the abuses he suffered throughout school. I really do like the story and theming of this game, and how it goes about expressing that, how it feels simultaneously so visceral and like an outburst of emotion, yet still so contained and singular. It makes it feel so much more relatable and I guess genuine to me. There's a lot of emotion riding on this game, and I feel like most of it doesn't come simply through the story and writing or any other tangible piece of it. You gotta just feel that shit spiritually too, and I adore it. I love how it represents these kinds of feelings too and the rawness of them all. Just wanting to explode and kill somebody that you hate, grappling onto each little strand of life that you can, and wanting so badly to be somebody but also being so scared of that. The entire game revolving around an upcoming birthday too is very integral to that theming, having that fear of time moving on, passing and aging as you feel you're not growing at all. The idea of growing up and not being your own individual is terrifying, and I'm not immune to feeling like that. Each passing birthday is just another marker that you're nearing adulthood and you still feel you have so much to figure out, and you just want to run away from that feeling, to stay young forever. I'm gonna be 17 tomorrow. What the fuck, man? But Petal does face his birthday, with the last few lines of his message reading, "That's why I need to leave. I need to live. Today's my birthday, and today I will finally start to live." It's such a small piece of dialogue that's stuck with me as I guess the defining quote of this game, and it becomes especially potent in the best ending you can get. Petal and Bios have been absolved, the both of them now trusting in each other and wanting to build their new lives together, freed from their past mistakes and struggles. The video clips of flowers flash by, as if their love of the world and life is coursing throughout their entire bloodstream and lifting them towards each new screen. And they take the final step beyond the town's border and wash out the blood in Petal's hair, leaving behind who they were before, as they realize they don't just need each other because they have nobody else and have to rely on the other, but because they genuinely do care about each other. It's such a sappy and naively optimistic outcome, but it fills me with the same kind of juvenile love and warmth that the art style and visual choices distilled in me. I feel like the ways that Tomorrow's My Birthday presents itself so unapologetically is what makes it work so well for me. It's not afraid to be extremely emotional and sappy, and combined with how real this shit feels, how intimate and comfortable it is, how small it all feels, and the humbleness of it, it really just works for me. It's the kind of shit that makes me want to tear off all my clothes and turn into a werewolf or some shit. It feels like so deeply intertwined with my own values as an artist and why I care about things like this. Why I guess I gravitate so much to things that people might find ugly or overbearing. Because shit like this is far more meaningful than just something that I think looks interesting or cool. It heals my soul and makes me feel seen in a way, and a lot of my art coming off Tomorrow's My Birthday has been inspired by how it makes me feel and the mindsets I feel carried its creation. I've recently gravitated a lot more towards making messy and colorful art that blends a bunch of shit together. It's the design philosophy behind the thumbnails for this very video, and it's so freeing to just make shit like that. Back to the game though. Let's say you didn't pick the correct options to get the best ending. What happens then? I feel like before talking about these endings, it's first important to touch on BIOS for like an extra second. To just say it straight, BIOS is a big metaphor for queerness. Specifically, I'm assuming more non-binary leaning identities, and their arc revolves a lot around their struggles with that identity and fitting in, with those feelings being the driving force for them wanting to leave in the first place. BIOS
ripped apart their code
to escape from being just a robot and to attain freedom and humanity, but BIOS is still just seen as a robot to most people, and on top of that, distinctions between human and robot are being made ever clearer by the government, based on this very on-the-nose newspaper snippet. Petal also is similarly very dismissive and not fully understanding of BIOS's identity in less intentional but still harmful ways. Petal mentions on occasion being jealous of BIOS's artificiality and status as an object, something that comes across even worse knowing how much BIOS looks up to and cares about Petal for his individuality. Despite his angst and apprehension towards BIOS, nobody seemed to care about the world in the same way he did. Nobody danced like he did, nobody looked solemnly at flowers the same way he did. Petal probably meant no harm with the remark. He is shown to be very empathetic towards BIOS and their treatment within the world, but it is a small misunderstanding that further pushes them away. He simply just sees what BIOS used to be as an escape and way to be rid of his depression and sense of meaninglessness, rather than a prison that confined BIOS. The first bad ending of this game revolves entirely around pushing these sentiments of Petal further and picking options that remove BIOS's humanity and emphasize their roboticness.
Today's my birthday, and today I will finally start to
The way it cuts off Petal's last line about needing to live makes the entire scene so uneasy. Like the plug was pulled on the TV, like this wasn't really supposed to happen, but it did anyway. Petal's body is haphazardly scattered across the grass with this really crude blood overlay on top of it. Everywhere else this wouldn't really be that unnerving, like something more from an old incompetently made RPG Maker horror game, but here it just comes across as just genuinely uncomfortable. The way it feels so unceremonious, the build up to it through the previous screens, and just kind of the viscerality of the entire scene. Both BIOS and Petal were still kids, and the way the body just looks like a paper cutout ripped up into pieces just reinforces how rash the decision was, and it's just like really upsetting. A bit ago I was toying with the idea of a game that feels like it was made by its main character or was like an unintentional byproduct of their existence, like that shit manifested straight from their head or something. And I think Psychopomp Gold and Tomorrow's My Birthday were the things that made me think that the most. I see a lot of Petal's struggles in the way the game looks and feels, and there's a very similar sort of thing here with this scene. Like BIOS wasn't able to fully process what they did adequately enough, and so it just comes out as this mess of Petal's body and blood. Such a weirdly raw moment for what it is. Suddenly, you started seeing me the same as everybody else. The flowers flash by in the same way they did during the good ending, but it feels very different this time. Instead of signifying their progress to keep moving forward and keep holding on to the beauty in their lives, it just serves as a stark reminder of who Petal was, the world that he loved so much, and how much BIOS looked up to Petal because of how much he loved these things and felt like the only person that actually cared. BIOS' struggle is so similar to Petal's, which makes it hurt even more that they both can't end up understanding each other. In their final monologue, the feeling of regret combined with gratitude and optimism just seeps under my skin and eats its way even further into me, as they now find themselves holding on to the small acts of kindness he showed them that no one else ever showed, holding on to the things that Petal loved and how he influenced their life. All of that standing as proof that BIOS does have a place in the world, and they still need to fight for it, whether or not they committed a sin like that. Instead of robot, you named me after life, even though I knew how much you struggled with your own. I hope I wasn't the only good thing in it. There's an interaction near the end of the game that I thought about a lot after playing, as something that I knew was probably special, but I wasn't able to fully understand what exactly it was. That's kind of a pretty good description for what the game as a whole was to me for a while after I played it. I could really tell it was something special to me, but it just wasn't something I was able to pin down at all. I just kind of knew it in my heart. It's like that one Carsey headrest line.
Nobody fucking cares about your gay, furry bro. Shut the fuck up.
Petal notes that there's only weeds in this patch off to the side of the path they're walking on, and BIOS mentions that this lone flower still blooms amongst them despite its surroundings. Petal then wonders if he should save the flower, to which BIOS responds, "Do you think the same for a weed in a field full of flowers?" And the interaction ends there. A very inconsequential feeling 4 lines of dialogue, yet it was one of the things from this game I thought about the most. And I think it's one of the most emblematic lines for the theming of the game, and that reoccurring juxtaposition and perspectives between characters dealing with very similar things. Petal's viewpoint on life makes it feel like he sees himself as the flower, the thing in need of rescue from the world around him that he doesn't fit in, and that treats him horribly. In this instance, the weeds are the rotten world and people Petal lives in and is surrounded by. while Bios's character lines it more with the weed in a field of flowers, as they see themselves as broken and ostracized and chasing after something that they feel everyone around them already has. Intrinsically, both of them are going through very similar things, but how they express that and cope with that is what makes it hard for them to understand each other. The other bad ending of the game sees Petal killing Bios as his fear and distrust overtakes him, making him think that to escape this he needed to remove everything he previously knew from his life. Even though Bios did care about him, that love only scared Petal, or maybe it just seemed artificial. He doesn't even know fully why he did it in the first place. I felt like I had to is all he has to say for it. The flowers flashing by and are stripped of all their beauty. Something that he found so much comfort in is now nothing, just noise and flashing images with no meaning. This is the world that he loved and was fighting for, and now he has it, but it's all wrong. All his humanity had been ripped from him by his own hands, and with that his love just became static. In his final monologue, Petal still refers to his birthday as being tomorrow, despite a day having passed within the game at this point, and that he left everything back in that town, even the things that made him human. He fought so hard to make his life his own, and now he's just nothing. The world means nothing, and he has nothing. His humanity will stay gone, his hair will stay coated in blood, and his birthday will forever be one day away. Every part of him was left back in the town, but now who even is he anymore? He gets rid of the nickname Bios gave him, Petal, and his text turns blank white, and his name vanishes. He became the exact thing he wanted to be, an object that meant and felt nothing. His nickname that was a symbol of the things he cared about and the genuine love that existed in him despite how the world treated him, now just doesn't really matter anymore. That love was replaced with a primal fear and desperation. He sees himself as just a vessel, not living but only existing, a puppet controlled by his fears and hatred for the people he was surrounded by. Bios's ending monologue shows them using what Petal gave to them to push them forward. Even though they will forever feel guilty, they just need to keep going. Petal's, on the other hand, is the exact opposite, wanting to remove everything that he previously knew and not knowing what to do at all. Just blindly hoping the tides of the world will bring his hollowed out body to his conclusion once he's forgotten everything about his hometown. Funnily enough, it's that same carry yourself along by destiny mentality that he felt he was breaking from. I love how he ends it by repeating Bios's message about leaving at the end. It's ironic he even says it because he didn't really leave. He's still trapped in almost the same way he was before, unable to express himself, scared of even the people who cared about him, and only acting as a vessel being pulled by the hands of fate. The writing here just feels completely numb, while its only signs of optimism only work against it. It's an ending that completely succumbs to fear and anxiety, with misguided reassurance to itself being the only thing keeping its hollowed spirit going. Anyways, there's one more ending, where you choose to just go home. Nobody shows up to your party, so nothing really changes. Except on his way back from school, Petal buys a balloon for Bios, only to find on his return that they've malfunctioned, but it's made clear that they just left on their own with the next line. It's an interesting ending, because it feels like it barely even lingers on these details, to a point where I even forgot Bios even left on their own. It made it really strange getting the ending again, and just having it said in such a nothing way, especially compared to how poetic and emotional every other piece of writing in this game is. There's just an extremely clear difference in how this ending is written compared to the rest of the game. It's the most blunt writing it has. I guess it feels hollow and lifeless like that for a reason. It makes you feel like you really made the wrong choice. A big part of leaving was Petal and Bios both becoming comfortable with their own selves and being able to express themselves without fear, with this ending partly being Petal's refusal to embrace his own self because of fear. And that's just reflected in how non-existent the aesthetics of the game are here. Bios never came home again, and Petal was alone at home. Genuinely vacant writing. You can really get this ending at any point by just clicking the back arrow on each screen, and I really like how it's constantly a looming option over you, like it's something Petal is still considering throughout the game, always something in the back of his mind. It's scary letting go, even from something you know is bad for you. The writing of Tomorrow's My Birthday, like most other aspects of the game, feels like it does so much with so little. It's personal and close, but that's what makes it as raw as it is. I love the poeticness of it all. It's so eloquent but also rough, and I feel all of it. Each line has chewed out its own specialized hole in my brain. The theme of it is also very resonant for me, embracing your own identity and individual, holding on to anything you can, loving your friends, and the slight juvenile burn the whole world sheen coating each word of the game only makes it work even more. I love its obsession with mundane scenery and small imagery of nature combined with that love for maximalism and eccentricity that feels specifically catered to me. However, while this game encourages me to hold on to even the smallest beauties of my life and inspires me like really nothing else I can think of, there's also a side of this game that cuts very deeply into my soul because of the circumstances around my initial playthrough of it. Around the time I played Tomorrow's My Birthday for the first time, January of 2025, and for a while before and afterwards, I had this unshakable feeling of loneliness, and disconnect from everybody around me that's morphed into a lot of bad habits of mine. I don't have very many friends that I see regularly day to day, and as much as it hurts to admit it, Petal kind of just reflects a really bad part of me. I wasn't bullied physically. The worst that's happened was I got pushed against the wall one time, and only one person has targeted me specifically. But I think mentally, I feel like I'm operating on a different wavelength to everybody else. I feel like it started in my freshman year. Most people who came up to me only ever saw me as someone to talk to because it was amusing more than because I was someone they genuinely wanted to talk to, and because my only social interactions outside of my friends was people just mocking me, I've built up this strong distrust in everybody that I meet now. And over time, it's sort of just grown into hatred for everyone around me. I hated other people, and sometimes it felt like I'm the only person that even cares about anything or has any ounce of humanity in me. I didn't really trust anyone, and I didn't believe they were even sincere with anything any of them ever said to me, so I stopped believing anybody could be genuine. I didn't trust anyone around me, and didn't believe they were even sincere with anything they said to me. I stopped believing anybody around me could even be genuine, so I just stopped trying and assumed everyone didn't like me or was just an awful person. I felt like everyone was just different in some way. They were all harsh while I was just small and easy to take advantage of, so I just stayed away from other people. It got to me pretty badly, and I became more reclusive than I'd ever been. For roughly the past 3 years or so of my life, I've been like this. I stopped really being able to connect or socialize with new people, and anytime I did, it just scared me. It was so harrowing to go to school every day and know that nothing is going to change because I can't really do anything about my situation. I'm practically stuck as I am, and I've already dug myself far too deep and can't really build up trust back in people around me or even my ability to coordinate myself when faced with them. I practically forgot how to even function around other people. I remember being shy in middle school, but it's like that just evolved into a complete factory wipe of my head and social functions. Half the time now, it feels like I'm barely even stringing words together, like I don't even have a grasp on the language I'm speaking. I don't really know what to do with my body or my face or my voice, so I just come out looking and talking like an alien to everybody. It's genuinely so hard to convey even any small idea for me, and as I scramble through my vocabulary to think of a response, I usually just give up and say nothing. It's weird because I was such an eccentric kid when I was in elementary school. I don't really know what happened that made me fall into where I am now, but it's hard to really feel like I can dig myself out of the hole that's been slowly deepening under my feet. I feel so disconnected from people around me, and I've been so antisocial for majority of my high school life, and I'd even say it extended into the last bits of middle school. I haven't really made a new friend who I genuinely care deeply about since I was in 6th grade, and it kind of just makes me feel awful thinking about that. It made me feel like I was just kind of like not real, or like not as, I guess, human as everyone else, and back then I used to kind of just wish that I was nothing. I thought the same exact way as Petal, like I don't know, I shouldn't even have the ability to form thoughts and I should just be stripped down to an object. Thankfully now it's the opposite. I feel like that's one of the worst mindsets you can possibly have, but I feel so restricted and minimized by everybody to where I practically am one to most people. I do have a main friend group that I still talk to, and a few other kids I feel generally more comfortable talking with. But when I'm not just awkward and shy, I'm a misanthropic mess that'll categorize anyone as an awful person without hesitation, based on sometimes minuscule shit. I started to hate everyone around me and be scared of them all, but at the same time I had such a reliance on other people emotionally, and if any of my friends or family that I care about stopped talking to me at that time, I wouldn't even know what to do with myself. I'm so scared to start conversations or organize time to see them, but at the same time I want to claw at my friends and hold them to the ground so they can't leave me. As isolating as it was for me outside of that long established friend group, it's almost like internally within that group it was worse. I felt more often than not like just a burden on them, like I only had them and I only ever wanted to talk to them, and I always felt that they were mad at me, and so I constantly asked them if I was making them uncomfortable, but I never really believed their answers. Those friends that I do have, we don't talk in person very often, and even around them I've started feeling terrible and incapable of communicating with them. There hasn't been a time I've hung out with friends in a while where I haven't felt terrible afterwards. Sometimes we go do something together and we just barely even talk, and I don't really know what I'm doing wrong. And feeling like I'm not as fun to be around or can't talk as comfortably around them made me feel sick. It felt like I was losing my own personality, not just to strangers but also to people I've known for almost all my conscious life, and that idea horrified me. It felt like I was fully conscious watching my life get ripped from me because of my own anxiety and fears. Seeing myself lose my identity like that, or at least perceive it in that way, was like I'd be forever characterized and bound by my own insecurities and inability to talk to anyone. It was like my life was flowing along a track I had no influence over. I don't know if what I felt in that time could ever be properly described, but I just knew that I couldn't make my friends laugh like I used to, or talk to them like I used to, or really do anything with them the way I used to. I became detached from the only people who I actually felt I could be around without any worries, and in turn I felt like I was losing my own sense of self. I've always hated how people looked at me, and that extended into my friends as well, and it's like even they just don't know what to make of me. And being out as queer to them only made it worse. I felt like I just wanted to melt in front of them all the time. There's such a disconnect between my body and my mind, and I just kind of want to rip everything off. I used to wish I was just some small animal people looked after and cared for. I really glorified that in my head, just being something that needed to be rescued all the time and saved and looked after. I used to fantasize about my friends saving me from a kidnapper who abused me, and I don't even know why I did that. I didn't see myself as capable of anything, and I just hoped I could rely on others for everything. I don't know how to function socially, I don't know what people are telling me, and I don't know how to tell them anything, so I just hope someone would come over and take me in as a pet. All this just turned me into this mess of a person that hated everybody around me and wanted to just explode emotionally at the smallest things. It was all at its worst at sophomore year. I spent almost the entirety of it without anybody and completely alone for a majority of my day. I had no classes with anyone I really knew, and I just sat at a table by myself at lunch. The only social interactions I had were when people would mock me or just say some annoying bullshit about how I'm smart, and if they could get answers from me. It was always the stupidest piece of shit saying that stuff. But there was one moment in that year that hasn't left my mind at all since it happened. Around December of that year, me and someone on my bus started talking with each other, and this other person was very open about how excited he was to be around me. And it felt like the first time I'd ever had someone like that in such a long time. On top of that, he was one of the only openly queer kids at my school, so it felt even more like this was someone who would understand me, and in my mind and my criteria for trustworthy people, have actual feelings or personality. But I don't know why, I was so miserable around him all the time, and I could barely ever talk with him, and I just felt so bad for him. I'm really what he was happy to be around. It got so bad where I was just hoping that he'd say something terrible and I could easily cut off ties with him or something and get mad at him. Something I look back on so embarrassed. I was so scared every single day wondering if he was going to be there, and I found myself hoping every day he was absent, so I could just feel for a day what it was like to be back on my own. I hated how alone I was, but it scared me to leave that state. In my head, I described it as my routine breaking. Eventually, I just sent a giant-ass message telling him I wanted to get away and I couldn't do it anymore. Something I still feel horrible remembering I did. He probably hates me now. I did it on my birthday too, barely after I'd played this game for the first time. That's stupid. I think about tomorrow as my birthday and I think about him. I think about how I pushed him away in the exact same way Parannoul did despite how similar we were to each other, and his openness to actually understanding me. And I didn't even realize it at the time. I feel terrible being as sappy as I am about this and missing him as much as I do. What right do I have to act like this over something I caused? Do I really deserve to be nostalgic over him? And now I'm writing about him and he probably barely even cares anymore, or just looks back on me like he doesn't even see it as a significant moment in his life. I think about if I would go back and change what I did given the opportunity, and I always come to the conclusion that I wouldn't, even now. I always tell myself that even if I was given the chance to leave again, I still would just decide to go back home. All the while, I still tell myself that I'll never even find anybody that actually understands or cares about me. Maybe the issue isn't that there's nobody, but that I'd never even accept that another person would feel like that towards me in the first place. Am I the weed or am I the flower? I'm some horrible combination of the two, I think. It's almost frustrating how much shit in this game mirrors stuff I've done in my own life. I think about tomorrow's my birthday and I just think of the guy on my bus. I think of the disconnect I have with my own body. I think about how much I hate everyone around me. I think about how despite having people that care about me, I still feel so lonely and inhuman. I think of how easy it is to irritate me and provoke me into wanting to kill somebody or some other stupid shit. I think about how much I'm reliant on people who are moving on in their lives while I feel like I'm going nowhere. I think about how hard I wished I could be somebody I'm happy with and be comfortable as my own individual. I think about tomorrow's my birthday and all I think about is myself. I think about how I'll never even try to engage further with the few people who have actually tried talking to me, and I know I'll feel shitty anytime I talk with them unfiltered, so I just act like cardboard around them. I barely even feel like a real person sometimes. Some of my loneliness definitely stems from my queerness as well. I feel like I'm just some fake person half the time, and anybody I talk to is only talking to me because they don't know who I actually am. I think to myself, if I were just born a girl, would I even be more comfortable around other people? And when I feel like the answer is no, I don't even know what I'm supposed to think. This is something that's supposed to make me feel better and more in touch with myself, but people knowing about it only makes me feel worse, and like I need to hide myself more. I remember being at a friend's house and going into the bathroom to change, and when I came back into the room where everyone was hanging out, they all just stared at me. They didn't even say anything, and I don't know why, but it hurt. I could only think that they were looking at me because they were disgusted by me, and I just wanted to run out of the room and go hide in a little burrow. I hate their eyes, and I hate other people's eyes too. It's like everyone has some predator instinct I can sense when they look at me, and I just hate it. In both Petal and BIOS, all I saw was myself. I saw my inability to open up or care for people when I desperately wanted to, or to understand people around me, or to really do anything. I want so bad for people to actually care about me, but at the same time, that thought scares me to no end. As much as that part of me is still something that lingers throughout my life and I still need to get better at dealing with, I don't want that to be all what this game means to me. Tomorrow's My Birthday is a very angsty and at times misanthropic game, but at no point does it ever tell you to stop holding on to the beauty you can find in your life, no matter how small. The emphasis on these flowers and Petal's love for them isn't just for contrast's sake, how the game forces you to stare at them for 50% of its runtime, how it makes you look at each background as you walk for a few seconds to find the next progression point. While editing the short intro to this part, I felt a genuine love in my heart for this game that almost made my struggles seem like nothing. The shit about Petal and BIOS's loneliness is obviously a big part of the game, and having something like this to see myself in and feel represented by through its visuals and characters is nice, but it's not at all what I should be focusing on, and simply just my ability to relate to it doesn't make it meaningful to me on its own. I see more than just my alienation in Tomorrow's My Birthday. The visual style of it alone, just for lack of better phrasing, makes me so happy. The earlier moments of the game where things haven't gotten too bad yet and Let's Skip Tomorrow is still playing, I think are some of the most comforting and life-affirming moments of any game ever. Its edginess bleeds through, but there still exists so much love and life in these parts, and they genuinely wreck me. I love this game in a way that words properly can't describe, I feel, and now, coming out of writing this whole video and having an entire year behind me since I first played the game, it's that love that I feel towards this game that I want to use to push myself. I almost see Tomorrow's My Birthday as a symbol of both my love and my growth now. I see Tomorrow's My Birthday and I see myself, but not fully in a bad way anymore. I feel seen not just by its depiction of loneliness, but also its colorfulness and unabashed love for life and creating that fills its being almost to a point of spilling out onto the floor. Every color, every flower, every word, every photograph of uninteresting yet welcoming scenery, every note of its music, all of it feels so warm and beautiful to me. Not only that, but this game has helped me realize that that's not what my art should mean ever. I've kind of drilled into my head as of late that the only way for my art to mean even anything is if there's something personal that links the game to my life and my struggles, and any video that doesn't focus on that is just less important, a filler upload, not really impactful art and not what I'm trying to do. And that's kind of awful. Whenever I felt miserable, I usually in the back of my mind told myself I'd at least have something to channel into my art and make something meaningful, which is so stupid. I've tried to distance myself more from that thought process and that endless cycle of critiquing myself because what I make isn't indicative of my personal struggles in life. I've learned a lot of ways that I can actually appreciate myself and my art for more reasons than just how sappy it is. Not every video of mine from now needs a vent section in it to be good and doesn't diminish the value of any of my other shit that doesn't. I'm glad I have a vessel to get these things out in a game that makes a part of me feel seen, but it's not like there aren't other reasons I love things or I make my own art. And Tomorrow's My Birthday is also exemplary for all those reasons as well. It brings me life, it inspires me, it makes me want to hold on, it makes me want to take back my life from my stupid insecurities. Not just in my day-to-day social life, but in my artistic one as well. I will always flash who I am to all of you in whatever I make, and that's been true for a while. When I thought about this part of me and the bullshit standards I've set for myself, I think of BIOS's request to Petal on the dock. Falling in love with pain isn't something I should be doing right now, and it's not going to make me a more competent artist or person. All my videos are personal, and starting to realize that was the first step for me. This video is somewhat of an end to a chapter in my life, I feel. Going forward, I don't want my art to be defined by stuff like this, and I don't think that's at all a healthy way to quantify the value of it. I won't stop being personal or upfront in my art in these more direct, sappy ways, but I'm not going to see them as the focal point of my art. And I'm not going to take the time to focus all attention on it for a whole section like I did here. Maybe making this right on my birthday is symbolic or something, I don't know. On the topic of that part, while I'm still apprehensive and untrusting of a lot of people around me, I'm getting back to being actually comfortable around my friends again, and I don't feel like every time I talk to them it's my first time on Earth, so I'm getting better in that regard. And it's a bit wild how much better I feel knowing that if I text one of them at any point, I'm not gonna feel like they're just upset with me. It's kind of funny that all 3 of my favorite games ever have a through line in their theming of holding on to anything that you have. I guess I'm a really simple creature, I just can't get enough of Hope Slop. But in Tomorrow's My Birthday's case, it's almost like that idea personified in its rawest and purest form. It is everything I love about and look for in art. It has the humility and beauty of creating that I've tried to capture ever since I played it for the first time, and it's driven a ton of my creative endeavors for this past year. Art to me begins and it ends at Tomorrow's My Birthday. It's so pure and simple, but at the same time it has never left my head for a second. It's alongside some of the most influential and life-affirming albums or games that I can think of, and I cherish it with everything in me. Maybe nobody will understand the way this game turns me into mush whenever I look at its art, but I don't really mind anymore. Since I finished Tomorrow's My Birthday, I've thought a lot about the final words of Petal's message. Today's my birthday, and today I will finally start to live. What am I doing that's living, and have I even been living in the first place? A small part of me felt like I hadn't been. I occupied myself so much with art, and I often don't do much with friends, and I barely even know how to socialize. The thing I would have pointed to as my form of living is mostly just the only thing I can do, and while it does bring me a lot of fulfillment and sense of community between me and other people, it's kind of also just a byproduct of me living reclusively for most of my life, sheltering and having music and writing and drawing be my main comfort instead of other people. Not that I don't value what I do, but it's kind of hard to think about how much I wish I could do as well. Some alternate life I wished I was living. One more romanticized and less boring from an outside perspective, I guess. One where I didn't care so much about my school life and just skip classes to do stupid shit with friends, doing fuck all, taking pictures of flowers and listening to sappy emo shit. It's such a dorky and romanticized fantasy to have, but I'm happy Tomorrow's My Birthday can give me a sense of that life. One where I didn't apply so much pressures over myself, I guess, which is funny to say considering the heavy story, but whatever. Now that I feel a lot more in tune with myself than I used to, I can point to a lot of other things that I consider living for me. There's still some stuff I need to work through and I want to fix with myself, but it's not like I have one day to do all that like Petal, so I'll just stay where I am for now, tend to my little internal garden for the time being, but I'll never stop trying to find new meaning in my life or just trying to figure myself out, I guess. And my experiences with art and making my own gives me enough comfort to feel like I'm really, for lack of a better phrasing, being myself, so I'll keep holding on to that and only occasionally be nerd ass who wants to live like a sitcom character. Maybe I'll stop feeling like this after I get the care I need, who really knows, but only time will tell, and again, I don't have one day to do it like Petal. I feel extremely grateful for this game's existence in my life, and the unlikely series of events that led to me even picking it up in the first place. When I found this game through the Mara video, it was like it was calling to me or something. I can't fully tell what made it stand out amongst all the other endearing art projects I would have loved to sink my teeth into. Maybe the soul bind I have with this game existed way before I even saw it for the first time. I love Tomorrow's My Birthday for reasons I can't really explain fully, but maybe what's here is good enough. My name is May. I'm 16. Tomorrow I'll be 17. I don't know how to drive yet. I haven't made a new close friend since 6th grade. I write and I draw in my free time, and I don't really know what that all means or why it matters to me, but maybe I don't need to right now. That's all. Thanks for listening to me.
Check this.
You took a picture of the lone semi.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get it on my back.
Check this schniz out.